This video is sponsored by Magic Mind.
Get excited, Apple's finally given us the design we've always wanted.
Welcome to the All Future podcast, where we talk all things tech throughout the week and various things like AI. And today we're talking about Apple. If you're watching these videos, we really appreciate it. And thank you so much to everyone who's subscribed thus far. I think we're approaching or have maybe surpassed 10,000 subscribers.
We're knocking on the door at least.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe we're through it by the time this video comes up. So yeah, very cool, guys. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you haven't subscribed, we'd appreciate that subscribe. Today we're talking about a bunch of different Apple products coming. So first up is the iPhone 16. And the reports here are coming because suppliers are already working on this phone. And the main ones are Samsung Display and LG Display already began production of the iPhone 16 OLED panels in June. And they ramped it up in July. And so we're anticipating a September 10th release, or I guess announcement for this phone. And just to reiterate some of what we're expecting from the iPhone 16, it's going to largely keep a very similar design. The normal one is going to look pretty much the same. The back is going to have vertically aligned cameras instead of the ones that are diagonal from one another. And then the Pro and Pro Max are actually going to increase in screen size. So Pro going from 6.1 inches up to 6.3, and Pro Max going from 6.7 up to 6.9. And I'll just cook through the rest of these. I might as well. We got a capture button for taking photos horizontally, faster chip, camera updates, Wi-Fi 7, and faster 5G modems. So in order to bring this to production, Foxconn has reportedly hired 50,000 new workers.
Guys, we're always talking about technological breakthroughs here that kind of change the environment, change our lives. But what about our minds and the breakthroughs there?
Well, we actually have something for that today, and that is today's sponsor, Magic Mind. It is a mental performance shot, and I've been personally using this for quite some time. The brand reached out to me originally. I gave it a try. I really liked it, and now we're happy to have them as a sponsor on this channel.
Guys, it's got the best ingredients. I'm talking matcha, mushrooms, nootropics, all coming together to make your life a little better.
And one of the best things about it is that it's not a caffeine replacement or a coffee replacement. You pair it with your coffee, it extends the release of that, and then all the ingredients in this mental performance shot work together to actually support ATP, which is your body's engine. So it's not just giving you more caffeine, it's actually helping to support your body and support your brain function. So I've definitely noticed a big change there on days when I have this, especially if I've taken it on consecutive days, and then days when I don't. And today we're actually taking this towards the beginning of this podcast. So let's go for it, and we'll get to the rest of this podcast here. We're all ready to go here with our Magic Mind. So to check out Magic Mind for yourself, you can click the link in the description below or head to magicmind.com/allfuture20. You'll get 48% off your first subscription for 10 days or 20% off a one-time purchase.
Wild, man.
Yeah.
50,000 new people. The scale of this stuff is crazy. It's crazy. And how Apple does, just masters of logistics, man. Can you imagine we've got to sell, we need 10 million of these things ready for launch, and we're going to start manufacturing them a month before they go on sale. It's like, that's nuts. So I guess that's why you need 50,000 people. And again, however you feel about it, why this stuff has to be made in China. China's the only place in the world, for the most part, really, that can pull together a labor force like that and put these things together. Crazy.
Yeah, we've seen that. Tesla, I follow them a lot, and so their Giga Shanghai factory was their fastest growing factory ever, and it's still their most productive. It's just crazy how much different it is from their Texas factory, just how quickly everything was able to move there. It's really impressive. But I was thinking, we talked on a previous podcast about how Apple is somewhat like a company that we never hear about mass layoffs from them. And this hiring of 50,000 people made me realize there might just be kind of shielded from it because suppliers are the ones doing.
Oh yeah. Apple
layoffs.
Never has to handle the headline because it's some subcontractor of a subcontractor that's just because what are these 50,000 people going to do? In December.
Yeah, exactly.
It's once that initial ramp up goes down, right? Maybe a little after December, but probably at some point in 2025, all those guys are out of a job then. But hopefully, that's when manufacturing of the Pixel 10 starts or something. They just like keep moving between factories or something like that. But yeah, crazy.
It's pretty interesting to see for this as well, because it seems like Apple is kind of betting big on the iPhone 16 being pretty popular. I don't know if we had a lot of people waiting. I guess we waited on the last refresh cycle. So if we waited, I guess a lot of people probably waited.
I think it's true, right? It's not only do I think there's a lot of people who waited, just because that's becoming more and more kind of the norm, as people are just like, oh, like these kind of iterative upgrades. People are like, oh, I'm not as into it. But then also having that Apple Intelligence cutoff, whether Apple Intelligence is even remotely ready by September, October or not, I think that's going to sell units. I absolutely think people who are on the fence about upgrading will think about upgrading because of Apple Intelligence. And so, yeah, like I think Apple knows that and they're preparing for that. Apple knows their numbers better than anyone, right? So if they are anticipating more unit sales, it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's pretty crazy to see the Foxconn stuff. That was 50,000 workers. I mean, there's details in these reports about them hiring that many people, and how the city where this Foxconn factory is kind of known as like the iPhone city, because it's just dominated by iPhone production.
It's wild, man. Like you always see those kind of like time lapses of like satellite photos or something of like those Chinese cities that have built up over the last 15, 20 years, 10 years, whatever it is. It's nuts. It's a scale that I don't think people in kind of Western world really comprehend.
Yeah.
That these places didn't exist. They were literally little towns, and now they're like skyscraper mega cities based around manufacturing electronics in China.
So given all those details for the iPhone 16, are you going to be upgrading?
Yes, I am. Again, because I'm on the 14, right? So I think for me, it makes a lot of sense, I think.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I mean, look, we're already going to get slammed by the resale value on iPhones that can't do Apple Intelligence. So
it's true.
I got to dump this thing. Right? If I'm going to get any money from it, to offset the cost of a new phone, like this is the year to do it. But if I was on a 15, you've sold me on your kind of theory here, right? That like, hey, just maybe wait, right? Especially if a lot of these Apple Intelligence features aren't going to be fully ready until in 2025. I think that's the bet you got to make. If the features you want won't be ready until, say, March or April of 2025, at that point you're kind of at the tipping point. You might as well wait for the 17, which is by all accounts going to be a kind of major refresh design. Maybe wait for that one.
That's definitely my feeling. Isn't there like a saying, like, do as I say, not as I do? That's how I feel about this, because I'm going to upgrade as well.
Dude, that could be the subtitle of this podcast. I think all the time we're like, this is crazy, don't do it. And then one of us will be like, you going to do it? It's like, yeah, man, absolutely, I'm going to do it. Of course I'm going to do it. Don't be ridiculous. Obviously, I'm going to waste my money on this.
Yeah, I mean, I will want that capture button. I think I'm going to upgrade to Pro Max as well. I'm going to go for the biggest one this time around. And then I'm excited for a 5X zoom camera instead of the 3X on that front. But yeah, the 17 is supposed to be the bigger deal. But coming after the 16 and before the 17 will be the new iPhone SE. In early 2025.
SE, make it a comeback.
Yeah. And the reports previously had been it would be essentially like a cheaper version of the 16, same form factor. But now the reports are saying it's going to be the 14 form factor. And it will come with Apple Intelligence.
All this makes sense to me. For one, the form factors are not that different.
That's very true, yeah.
Well, you're missing the extra buttons, right? So that's kind of the big difference in the form factors. But you don't want to... When this is... I don't know who thought that it was having the form factor of the 16. That's a crazy rumor to have, because that's not what Apple does with these like third-tier iPhone models, whatever you want to call it. I think the iPhone C kind of fell into this category as well, and then the SE models do too. And that they're always like 2 generations behind in their design language, because you don't want to undercut that the new one or even the previous one, right? Because they're still going to sell iPhone 15s next to 16s at that lower rate, like they always do. So you want the step up to be a nice gradient there, and not like, oh well, I don't want to have people not getting the more expensive 15 to get the cheaper iPhone SE because it's closer to the 16. So we've got to make it like the 14. Oh yeah, all this makes total sense to me.
Absolutely. And yeah, the big news there is, I mean, in addition to things like Face ID and just the form factor, it's also going to come with Apple Intelligence capability.
Yeah, which I don't think Apple's making anything at all from here until the end of the universe that is not capable of Apple Intelligence, right? You're not going to do it, especially since it's going to have such core level functionality going forward. No way. And we're probably going to talk about this at some point, the idea of monetizing Apple Intelligence going forward. So you're going to need that in all your products. Yeah, of course. Of course, Apple Intelligence is going to be in everything.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely interesting to think about the iPhone SE and who that market is for. And it seems like with the addition of Apple Intelligence, it could be shifting a bit more to, it already is the entry-level phone, but to a degree in the past, it has been the entry level, but also for people that are like, I don't want Face ID. I don't want this latest thing. I still want that home button and stuff. And here they're just saying, no, it's now a modern iPhone. Yeah. And it has Apple Intelligence, but it's cheaper.
Yeah, for you guys who don't remember, the SE was the last model that still used Touch ID and the button kind of method. That's long gone, man. If you're still a fan of that, bad news. Like that's going the way of the dinosaurs, my friends. And at this point, I think you would have backlash if you had a Touch ID button system on an iPhone because it's like all new things. It has like that kind of path where like it comes out and everyone's like, I hate this. And then like 6 months later, they're like, the new one is the coolest. And, and then it's like, and then they change that and they forget that they hated the thing before, like, so yeah, it's like, buttons are gone, man.
Yeah. I always think about AirPods as a fantastic example of people's reaction to a product. Because when it first came out, people thought it was ridiculous. Yeah. Thought the design was ridiculous. Like they just cut off the cord from the headphones and now it's the form factor for earbuds.
Now Samsung copies it. Whatever, like everyone just uses the same thing. Yeah, this is, I'm sure this happened since medieval times. And there are some guys like, hey man, check out this sword. It's got this cooler hilt on it. They're like, that's dumb. And this is just the story of technology.
Absolutely. And speaking of those Apple Intelligence features, you just hinted at this. There's a new report from Gurman talking about Apple Intelligence features and saying Apple is going to be developing more advanced features here that they will specifically be charging for in the future. He still says it's about 3 years off. So that's the timeline he's giving. I think that's 2027. Before Apple's going to charge anything for these. So you'll get them just by buying an Apple device. But it could be up to $20 a month to use these future Apple Intelligence features.
That seems a little pricey to me for Apple. But
I mean, that's what GPT 4.0 subscription is.
Yeah. A 4.0 subscription is $20 a month, which I pay. So I mean, I think it's worth it ish. Like I feel more comfortable if it was like $9.99 a month, like $10 a month. It'd be super impulse for me to recommend it to people. I imagine what this actually is going to be is something that's tied in with like Apple One or something like that. I don't know if it's really going to be. They might make it a standalone thing. $20 a month seems like a lot though. Like look at how Apple prices other services. They actually undercut people.
Yeah.
They undercut people like Apple TV Plus, for example. Like it's cheaper than say Netflix or anything like that. And Apple TV Plus was really the first service that came out at that kind of rate that was much lower.
Yeah, like it was like 5 when everyone else was 10 or
exactly.
more, right?
Yeah. And that's become kind of a standard rate for like, I don't know, third tier streaming services, or it was for a little bit, and now then they slowly bump them up over time.
Yeah.
So $20 seems a lot for this. My question to you is, what feature can you imagine them adding that you'd want to pay for, right? Like, what is that feature going to be?
It would have to just be much better for some reason.
I don't think that works, right?
And how would they distinguish it?
It's hard to sell people on this is faster.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be like an actual, like, this is the thing it does. And they've already, like, kind of presented their view of Apple Intelligence. And for me, it hit all the boxes that I wanted and what I wanted a kind of an AI fueled iPhone to be.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what is this next thing? Something I can't imagine right now, but something I'm sure I will pay for.
Yeah. Some sort of general awareness, but it's already those are the features that they've already talked about.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, but I'm sure that they're going to come up with something, right? And they wouldn't develop this if they didn't have some kind of plan to monetize it, right? Especially we know how much this stuff costs, right? Billions to operate this AI servers, all this kind of thing, and for the R&D cost, all these things. So they're going to charge at some point, and I'm sure they will come up with some kind of way to get me suckered in on it.
Absolutely. Next up might be your most exciting one. I don't know how you feel about this product. I'm curious. So next up is an M4 Mac Mini, supposedly getting a total redesign to be much smaller, more close to the Apple TV size.
My friend, you know me well. Absolutely, this is what I'm most excited about. And when I saw it in our outline, like at the bottom, I was like, I get it, because that's. I mean, I talk all the time how like Mac sales are such a small fraction of what Apple does, and even us, like we see our analytics and we know how you guys watch the channel. Very few people are watching on Mac, so, so it's like, but. Look, man, I've always loved the Mac Mini. I had the old polycarbonate Mac Mini, like the white plastic one, for lack of a better way to call it.
Yeah.
Years and years ago. And then I had when they first switched to kind of the metal unibody style, I had one of those. And then I was off the Mac Mini train for a little bit. Got a Mac Mini when they switched to M1 chips, because that was one of the first M series Macs you could get. I love it. I think it's a great machine. I think it's a great entry-level machine. Anytime I've kind of like bought Macs for people, like, I'll buy my sister a Mac or my niece or nephew or something. Well, they all want laptops now. Everyone wants MacBooks now, but older people are like, oh no, I want a desk thing. Like, that's what I view a computer as. Yeah, love a Mac Mini. But it is too big. It doesn't need to be this big.
Yeah, it's like kind of this big-ish, right?
Sure, I guess. Like, something like that, I guess. But
I wish I just could grab one. But.
Yeah, but I mean, it's been that footprint size. It's since they switched away from the polycarbonate design, the white plastic design. That overall footprint has been essentially unchanged, and there's no reason for it to be that big. At all. Especially because when they originally made it those sizes, they were making it that size to like still accommodate like optical drives and stuff like that. There's room in that, especially when right next to me is an iPad Pro, which is more powerful than that Mac Mini. And it has a screen and it's still way smaller, right? And I know the Mac can do more than the iPad, blah blah blah, and it's got more I/O ports. You need room for I/O. Like that's the thing that takes up the biggest space now on a machine is, I've got to have ports, and there's like depth requirements for that, right? And then you also have worries about cooling and all this kind of stuff. But the Mac Mini can absolutely be much smaller. Even if look at the internals of an iMac and see where the computer space of an iMac is, and it's like that, man. It's like a tiny little board in there sitting at the bottom. And I'm like, yeah, you could make this thing the size of an Apple TV, I think. And I think it would sell more of these.
Yeah.
Because right now, people are so like, oh, just get a studio, right? Like, I know studio, the price is more, right? But like, who are the people who want Macs now? Like, who's left in that train, right? Who like need like a desktop Mac? And I think a lot of those people don't need the power of a studio. They're schools and things like that, or they're that need like more of a traditional computing setup with an external monitor, keyboard, whatever. And if you make that hockey puck size Mac Mini, that size of an Apple TV, a little bigger, taller, or wider, or whatever, that thing is going to be awesome. So I'm in on this.
Nice. Reportedly Apple TV size, but then it's going to be taller than the current Apple TV, which is 1.4 inches tall. And then, they said it's essentially an iPad Pro in a small box. So you were right on there.
There we go. I probably could have just looked at the notes right here that say all that. Check the tape. I didn't look down once. But that's all in the notes. I think, it seems cool. I think it's going to be a cool device.
Yeah. I'm curious, too, if people ever travel with these or bring them around.
I've absolutely seen that.
Yeah.
And this is nerd stuff, man. Like I've seen people do that, back in my days of being a real tech YouTuber, when I go to CES and stuff like that, like you'd see guys in their hotel rooms like set up Mac Minis and like edit stations and things like that. I think it's kind of nuts, but you know what something this size would pair really great with is like those USB-C monitors. You've seen those. They're like they're iPad size, and they just you can just plug in a USB-C and they like power off the USB-C system. So it's kind of cool. So yeah, this would be a cool thing to travel with.
I could even picture traveling with that in an Apple Vision, because right now I'll travel with a laptop and the Apple Vision, and sometimes do the mirroring thing, but I often just use the screen. But you would reduce your setup to even smaller if you just had that.
Did you just pitch probably the most ridiculous, unnecessary setup yet? A thing I want to see someone do? Like, yes, absolutely. Right? That's crazy. That'd be fun to do, I guess. I don't know if travel is really the big benefit of this, but I see what people are actually going to do. I can see it all right now. Like these companies that make like cool Apple accessories, 12 South, and these kind of guys, Anchor, and I don't know, all these guys that make these kind of Apple specific accessories, making like a mount that like hooks on the back of a monitor. Yeah. You just stick your Mac Mini into the back of the monitor, and it just kind of plugs in. So it kind of makes like a thrown together iMac, but you get to keep your screen and monitor system, whatever you like.
And then you're upgraded to M4, and you.
That's cool too. Yeah, I'm kind of sold on this, man. I might get on board with this. I was thinking the other day of what I still use my Mac Studio for, and I was like, man, I don't really need this thing. I don't really need this thing.
Too much power.
It's taking up space, and if all of a sudden they made like a tiny little Mac Mini, an M4 Mac Mini, I'd look into that.
Yeah, nice. Well, speaking of iPads, because we were talking about how it's basically an iPad Pro in a smaller frame, the iPad Air will reportedly be getting an OLED display in 2026. Not a ton of detail here, but cool.
Yeah, I'm like, surprised to no one, I guess. Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, cool.
Is anyone going to be disappointed by an OLED iPad Air?
Yeah, it's like, oh, cool. Nice upgrade.
I think it said like single stack, though, so I guess that might be different than the...
It's not the dual layer thing?
Yeah.
Dude, I will say, like, I don't know if it's my eyes playing tricks on me, but sometimes I feel like I see the two layers. Anyone else, let me know if you see this. And it'll happen on something that is pure black, like 100% black. And if it's on top of something, I say on top of, right? It's a black object with like color around it. And I'll kind of look at it, especially if I'm really looking at something like doing some art or something with the Apple Pencil and stuff. I'm like, it seems like that black layer is slightly higher somehow. It has almost like a parallax effect. And it could just be like, whatever, like the color perception is like, playing tricks on my eyes or something. Because I know it's actually like millimeters. It's not actually like, you can't actually see that distance. But I wonder if something is happening in how it's displaying that's like giving me a sense of that.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm curious to see that. And then coming up after the iPhone 16, we've heard a lot about the iPhone 17 and how this is going to be a complete redesign for Apple. This is why we've kind of advised people, even though we're upgrading, you might not want to upgrade yet. You might want to wait for the 17. Apple Intelligence will be ironed out. It's a fully new design, form factor, all that stuff. But the iPhone 17 Air is what the rumor is now for the slim version.
Yeah, makes sense. Apple's never used slim as a marketing term.
Yeah.
So that was never going to
We've heard about this slim version that would be slimmer, a slightly smaller screen than like the Pro version, or I guess the Pro Max. And so it would kind of sit in between in this kind of spot we couldn't figure out. But it seems like you think iPad, iPad Air, iPad Pro. It's going to be iPhone, iPhone Air, iPhone Pro. And that's what's supposed to be coming for the 17 Slim. It will actually be the Air. That's according to Gurman. So
cool. I mean, it's a year away, but I might consider something like this just to, because like all people, whether they like to admit it or not, right? Like half the joy of a new iPhone for me is seeming like I have a new shiny product. So if it's like something radically different, I'll be like, oh, cool. I'm in. I'm interested in getting that now.
Yeah. Reportedly, this is supposed to sit there as well. So it's for people who want something slightly better than or slightly cooler and fancier than the base model, but they don't actually want to go all the way for the Pro one, which is usually quite a bit heavier and all that
That's
stuff.
Probably me, man. I probably actually fall into that category where I'm like, oh, there's like one or two things makes me want to get the Pro. And I'm like, but most of it I don't really care about.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What I'm curious is refresh rate. When are they going to is everything going to have the Pro Motion display across the whole lineup? And then is that something that gets people to care? Are they going to upgrade to the 17 Air for the refresh rate?
Do you think anyone really does it sell anything ever?
Well, for
Pro
me,
Motion display. Does that sell anything?
For me, it keeps me.
Really? That's what keeps you on the higher end side.
Part of it keeps me there. Yeah. Okay. There's other features like I like the 3 cameras and such.
Yeah, the cameras seem way more sellable to me than ProMotion.
But like, go use a normal iPad or go use a normal phone. Yeah. I guess you have a mini.
I've got an iPad mini. Yeah. So yeah, I know. And maybe I just don't do enough things that move around the screen enough to like care that much. But I take it back. I know some people do care about it, but we live in a world where most people don't even know when they have motions moving on their TV, man. So this is
yeah. This is a niche conversation.
Yeah, exactly. It's very niche.
But it's supposed to be a bigger hit. They're expecting that to be more popular than other, like, I guess, exterior phones that they've made and tried in the past, like the Mini and the 14, 15, 16 Plus. They're hoping that this will lead to meaningful growth for the iPhone in 2025 when it comes out. I guess that would be very much towards the end. But they have a lot coming for the iPhone that they're expecting to sell a lot of units, both with the 16 and then the 17 with that 17 Air. So I'm very curious to see here because the iPhone, I think a lot of people have the perception it doesn't change. It's, there's nothing exciting for us to get. They're desperate. They're not even giving us new upgrades. I don't think people are buying them anymore, but people are buying them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, in our kind of bubble, people are like, oh, it's so boring, it doesn't change. Like, most people seem to not care about that.
Yeah.
And the software and ecosystem has been the selling point for iPhones for years anyway, yeah.
I think I'd still go Pro because of cameras, basically. Yeah. But you would go for an Air?
Well, I mean, this theoretical Air that we might not even exist that we're talking about, I got to see it. But sure, yeah. It's look, if it is a significantly different form factor, which what it seems to kind of be, why it's like a weird size that they don't make, is it just a different, the body feels different on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would go for that. Because I'm a vain person and want to feel like I have something new.
But yeah, those are the new Apple products coming very soon. You're very excited about the Mac Mini.
Oh yeah, buying that for sure.
I'm probably most excited, I guess, about the 16 because it's coming soon. Hopefully September 10th unveil for the new iPhone 16.
Awesome.